Hey, welcome to the Bag Chatter podcast. I am your host, Brian, joined as always by a man who has never been to a no-hitter in person. Very embarrassing. Adam, how you doing today?
That's true. I never have. I've never been close. I've been to a lot of baseball games. Nothing close to a no hitter. Yeah, I thought about it every time. Every single time I've thought about it, but nothing even remotely close.
Yeah, you and I were actually talking about this recently because, and I had no idea how few no-hitters. Is that good grammar?
Yeah.
How there were not very many no-hitters in history, and it's relevant because so you and I were talking.
Mm-hmm.
I saw a no hitter on my birthday,
Right.
which I guess I had never told you about. Had never come up
No,
before.
you had never mentioned it. One of the, I believe it's like 318 no hitters in MLB history.
Yeah, 320, 318, something
Yeah.
like that. Um, you actually, it almost seemed like you didn't believe me at first. That was the vibe that I got when I told you.
I was just like, I felt like it would have come up before now. It's not that I didn't believe you. It just felt like something you would have mentioned.
Yeah, I had to look this up, but I was at the 279th no hitter ever thrown by Homer Bailey,
Mm-hmm.
a road team playing in Pittsburgh against the Pirates. It was a 1-0 game. It was 2012. So it was my 36th birthday. We did like a weekend trip with our kids. I think there was another. Oh, we were at a wedding. We were at a wedding that weekend in
Okay.
Pittsburgh. And so it was like, hey, let's go a little early and let's check out that really cool ballpark. And we saw history on my birthday.
Right. And I mean, we're going to jump right to it. I think you might be one of the most unique people in the world because you, Brian,
Yes.
have seen a no hitter on your birthday
Mm-hmm.
and you have hit a hole in one on your birthday. And
That
this
is
is the debate
correct.
we got into. Is there another person in the world who has seen a no hitter and hit a hole in one on their birthday?
This first came up a few nights ago. And Eric and I were out to dinner with our daughter Kylie. It was celebrating her birthday, and her husband Luke. And he was talking about going to see a game in Pittsburgh. I said, "Oh, I've been to Pittsburgh. I actually saw a no hitter in Pittsburgh." And he was like, "Oh, yeah, that's right. I think you told me that one time." I said, "On my birthday, actually." And he was like, "Really?" And then we were like, "Wait a second. How many people do you think have seen a no hitter in person on their birthday and have hit a hole in one?" And he was like, "You might be the only one." And I was like, "No, no, no." I was like, "There's probably like what, 100, 200?" And he was like, "I don't think there's that many." And so but then the topic changed and we kind of didn't talk about it anymore. But when I brought this up to you the other day, you, I haven't seen you get that excited in a long time. You were adamant that there's a decent chance I
Yeah.
could be the only person that this
Well, we
applies to.
started doing math. We were doing math on napkins, and doing all sorts of stuff, trying to figure out some numbers on this. And if there's another person, first of all, I want to find them. If we can
Yes,
find another person who this is true of, we got to meet them because it's probably you and them. It's not a big number because there have only been 320. You figure average of 20,000 people. Again, we broke this all down.
yeah.
And
So
it's like there's a
let's do the
yeah,
math. 320 no hitters
right.
ever, right? Let's
Yep.
assume average attendance at a baseball game is 25,000.
Which is
Maybe a
probably generous. That's
maybe a
probably
little
generous.
generous. That gets you to 8 million people,
Okay.
okay?
Yep.
But as we all know, there are 365 days in a year, and so the chance that one of those people was there on their birthday, you would divide by 365. I believe that's the math.
Yep.
That gets us to roughly 22,000 people.
So one baseball stadium of people.
Yes, one baseball stadium of people that saw a no hitter
On
on
there.
their birthday, and there's some other stuff baked in there too, like um, some of those people have seen more than one baseball game, right? That's only assuming that everybody has only been to their first, or does that not matter?
I don't think that matters.
Because
I
if
don't
they
think
saw two games, it was probably on different days. So yeah,
right. No,
so
it's
that
just
wouldn't matter. Okay,
yeah.
so of those 22,000 people, and by the way, if you're really good at math, we're going to make like 17 mistakes while we're going through this. This is where you can chime in and help us potentially. um,
So we're down to 22,000 people.
Yes. So of the 22,000 people, how many of those people play golf?
Right. And a lot of those
That's
22,000 are kids, they're children, you
right.
know, they're women. Are they allowed to golf?
Uh,
Um,
I probably have to cut that out of the podcast now. I've been protecting us against that view you've long held that women should not play golf. No, you don't believe that. But I would say the percentage of women who play golf is probably lower than the percentage of
mhm.
men who play golf. So that needs to be factored in. What did we land on? Like 8% of those people play golf?
I think
10%, something
we
like that?
found a stat that said about 8% of people play golf. And that was kind of confirmed in a couple different ways. But let's I mean, I think we said let's be generous with it. I don't know what you did in your math.
Yeah.
We were
So
like, let's call it 10. 10%
yeah.
of people play golf.
10% is 2,200. Let's say 2,500. Let's say that
Mhm.
we get down to 2,500 people who have seen a no hitter on their birthday that also play golf,
Right.
which is probably high.
Yeah.
But
In that
that's
crowd, in a real crowd of just a random 22,000 people, it's probably not that many who actually play golf.
now what percent of those 2,500 golfers have a hole in one?
Well, that's so they always throw out the number. What is it? It's like like 1 in 12.5 million is the chances of hitting a hole in one. But I don't know what that means on any given shot over the course of your life. I don't know.
Right. So here's what I'd say to you anecdotally. If the next 100 random golfers you got paired up with, you ask them, have you ever had a hole in one?
Right.
How many do you think would say yes?
I think like 15 is what I
Okay,
would.
I was going to say like 10.
Yeah, 10 to 15
So
would say they have one.
let's say 15 then.
Okay, so
Let's
let's go up
say
to 15, and then divide that.
so of the 2,500 golfers who have seen a no-hitter on their birthday, 15% of them actually do have a hole in one. That gets us down to 375 people.
Right.
But the catch is, as you were about to say,
Right. We got to divide that by 365 because
because
it's
that
on
hole
your
in one
birthday.
needed to be also on their birthday. So divide 375 by 365 and you get one. One person.
And it's you.
It's me.
You're the one. So I think if there is another, it's a statistical anomaly. It's exceeded expectation.
Is there I mean, there's no way to find this out other than like if
Word of mouth.
somehow, yeah, somehow like the people with the biggest golf Twitter accounts somehow put this out there. Um, yeah, I suddenly sensed that conversation a few nights ago. I'm walking with a different gait. My shoulders are up high, my chin is held up. I feel more special, Adam.
Yeah, no, I really truly believe that you are the only person in the world who's done this and who's accomplished this feat. And so I just it excited me. It excited me the fact that you didn't believe that at first. You
Yeah.
thought it was 100 to 200. There's no chance it's 100 to 200. 0%.
So I guess the follow up question to this is how significant actually is this? Because, we actually joked about this earlier this year, but like I could stand here, stand on my left foot, hold this cup in the air, and say, like, I'm the only person who has ever stood only on their left foot holding a white cup that said the phrase, Antoine Jameson is my father's veterinarian. Like, I'm probably the only person that has ever done that. And really, I don't know where that came from. That was
It was
truly
good.
random.
It was good.
Uh,
Um,
that's not special because it's stupid. So
yeah.
is this stupid?
It's not stupid because, and I'll describe why. But like I always lean towards an ecclesiastical view of the world, if you will. There's nothing new under the sun, Brian.
Mm,
Um, and so I tend to think that every thought, everything has been said
okay.
and done. And but this, so yes, you are the first one to claim that Anton Jameson is
It's
your
my
father's
father's
son,
veterinarian.
which is really impressive. That this only increases your uniqueness. Um, but the fact that this is two things where these are notable things. These are things that you will tell your grandkids about. You would have either way.
Yeah.
Either one of them, you would have told your grandkids that you saw a no hitter, that you saw a or hit a hole in one. These are notable things for both of them to happen on your birthday is insane. And so,
Okay.
like, it is a pretty unique thing.
Yeah, they happened 4 years apart. The no hitter was 2012. The hole in one was on my 40th birthday, 2016. I think what does make it kind of cool and unique is that it's sort of like an inciting incident in a movie or book, in that it's something that happened to me and not something that I made happen. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? Like, it's different than saying I'm the only person who's ever played 100 holes of golf on their birthday
Right.
and also visited three different ballparks or something like that.
Hmm.
Like, a hole in one, obviously I did it, but it's so luck based that it's sort of something that happens to you. And obviously, the no hitter was something that happened to me and that I had no control over it. So,
They're both huge statistical anomalies,
yeah.
and that they happen to you on a specific day of note to you is, astronomical statistical anomaly.
Yeah. And two things that they're like very, very loosely, maybe not even directly connected to birthdays. Like, is there a higher frequency I'm going to play golf on my birthday? I guess maybe, because it's a day you kind of do what you
Hmm.
want. Same thing with maybe a trip to the ballpark, but um, it's not like it revolves around like opening gifts or presents or something
Hmm.
directly related to birthdays. So
I think that, like, the number is not huge of people who have a hole in one and have seen a no hitter in person. It's not a huge number. It's big. It's much bigger than one.
hmm
Um,
a
but like
thousand, a thousand maybe.
more than that, maybe even.
Okay,
I think. I
yeah, I
think.
think you're right.
But like, I think it's something where if, like, I hope we find somebody who, like, we're close on, where it's like, oh, I actually did hit a hole in one on my birthday. Haven't seen a no hitter. Oh, I've actually seen a no hitter and have a hole in one, but neither on my birthday.
Right.
There's a lot of people who will be in the close call category, but we're
Yeah.
not going to find a person who has accomplished your feat.
I'm going to, maybe later in the week after this episode posts, I will, or maybe the same day that it does, I'll post something on Twitter, and I'll try to get the attention of Lou Stagner, because he is
Right.
the guru of golf numbers.
Yeah.
Maybe he would be interested in this.
Yeah.
I would love to find that person. Oh my gosh, that would be crazy.
You two could have dinner. It would be great.
We could play golf together and try to have a hole in one on the same hole.
That's right.
What if the other person was also born on September 28th? Would that mean we're in a simulation?
Yes, it would. You guys, the two of you could have like a 1972 Miami Dolphins dinner at like popping champagne at the end of every golf season, where it's like another season where nobody's matched us.
I went on the hole in one registry the other day to try to. There's a website to
Hmm.
try to see if I could learn anything new, and for some reason my hole in one's not on there. I could have swore I submitted something. Then I'm like, is this really even official? Like, it's not like it's run by the USGA.
Right.
It just might be somebody running it out of their basement, and I
Yeah.
don't know.
Yeah. I don't know. But
Anyway, we're not going to
you're the
spend the
only
whole
one.
episode talking about this.
You're the only one in the world.
I am special, folks. This is really all you need to know. But yes, we need to move on because we have a club championship to talk about.
Yeah.
Um, for both of us, this was one of the biggest golf weekends of the year. This tied directly to one of your goals that you stated at the beginning of this
Hmm.
podcast. Both of us, inarguably, have been playing our best golf over the last month. So we were peaking at the right time, hopefully not too early, and we went into Saturday with high hopes. You went in with especially high hopes.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, I felt I had played so well leading into it, and I felt for the first time like, hey, I have a chance to win this thing, and so that was the goal. The goal was to win the thing.
Yeah, and we talked last episode about trying to get a couple of rounds from the blue tees under our belt. We don't often play the blue tees. We usually play combo tees, which are 13 blue, 5 white, and the 14th hole is white when you play combos. That's a very difficult tee shot from the blues. 15 is difficult whether you're from the whites or the blues. You did get 2 rounds in from the blues, 1 or 2, and how did you do in those leading up?
77 with you, and then
Yes,
70 the
also
next
with
time.
me.
So that was with
Yeah,
you as well. Yes, yes, that was also with you.
yep. And I shot 77 the same day you did, and then I shot 72 a few days before the club championship, and that was my second best round ever at Honeybrook,
Right.
and certainly the best that I had ever shot from the blues. Actually, came to the final hole. We skipped 1 and 2 because we were filming. I don't think we talked about this on last week's pod. Yeah, we skipped 1 and 2 because we were filming. We started on 3, and then we looped back around. 1 and 2 were going to be to finish our round. We both parred 1. We both went into the second hole, our final hole, at 1 over.
Yeah.
And we both needed a birdie to shoot even par, something you've done a handful of times. You've been under par as well, something I've only done once, like 10 days earlier. And
Yeah.
I ended up hitting a drive right into the pond, which was not a great look. I
Tough
did,
scene. Tough scene.
yeah, I did scrape out a bogey. Had a nice up and down to make bogey, and shot 72. You put your approach to like 6 feet and made the putt, and
Yeah.
you did actually shoot even par. That was
Yeah.
impressive.
I enjoyed it.
All right, so we're not going to go hole by hole through the club championship.
Just too many holes. We actually logistically cannot go hole by hole
Yeah. Do you
on
have
this.
your scorecard pulled up on Gin
Yeah, I do.
by chance? All right, I have mine too. Um,
Oop.
I am
Oh.
going to tell you that my front 9 on the club championship, I shot a 38.
Okay.
Par is 35. That included 1, 2, 3, 4 bogeys, which I was
Okay.
not super happy with. 1 birdie, which I really did. Which I was really happy with. I birdied 7. Overall, I was not. The game didn't feel there, and I didn't love that. My drives off of 1 and 2 were these weak toe hooks that I don't know that I've hit all year. So it's like, okay, there's definitely some tension in my swing here. I still managed to make par on 1, ended up making a bogey on 2. So yeah, I made the turn at 38 in round 1. How about you?
I also made the turn at 38 in
Mm,
round one. I terrible range session. Didn't feel like anything was there. Um, and at first, there was a point. The highest point I had on that 9 for sure, and spoiler alert, in the whole round,
mm,
was I just didn't feel like I had my game. I made a really sloppy bogey on 2, and then I kind of like righted the ship a little bit and got to the 7th hole still 1 over, and I was like, wow, I'm not playing well. Not an excuse at all because I shot 68 with a sore back, but my back was really bad that morning, and I was like, wow, I got here and I'm only 1 over through 7, and it's been a disaster, And I'm like, this is great. I had a moment where I'm like, I can do this. This is why thinking about winning is a reasonable option, because I've played so badly and I'm 1 over. I'm gonna shoot a good score here. I promptly hit that green and 3 putted for bogey, and
mm,
then bogeyed the next hole as well. Turned at 38.
mm. So you were not loving where you were at that point.
No, I was pretty frustrated at that point. Yes.
Yeah. All right, so I went to the back. I made a sloppy bogey on 10. Then I hit my approach to like 20 feet on 11 and dropped another birdie putt in. So was feeling pretty good about that. But I kind of held it together. But when I got to Amish Corner, things kind of fell apart for me. But I'm going to save that. What happened 10, 11, 12, 13 for you before you got to Amish Corner?
I parred 10 11.
Okay.
Almost birdied both of them. And then I get to the par 5 12th. I hit kind of a weird drive, but straight, short, so I have to lay up where I normally am trying to go for that green. I lay up to 130 yards. So I've got a pitching wedge in hand,
Mm-hmm.
left side of that fairway, um, big green. I'm thinking, okay, knock this close, try to make a birdie. And I hit a 30 to 40 yard pull hook with a pitching wedge from 130 yards just directly into the what is that even? It's not a hazard anymore. What is that? What is that
Penalty
over there?
area. Penalty area.
Into a penalty area, and
Yeah.
I was just shocked that by that swing. It was the worst swing I've made in a month, and then
I'm trying
I
to think
go.
of how the wind was blowing that day. The pin was sort of
Had
like
nothing to do with that.
front right, just nothing.
Very innocuous pin.
Yeah.
I'm trying to knock it, 10 feet behind the pin kind of thing. And just, I mean, again, 40 yards left. It was such a horrific swing. I get over there, I drop it, and unlike the rest of the golf course, the rough over there was 3 inches deep. And it was like, I drop this ball and the ball disappears. I
Mm.
hack it onto the green, two putt for a double.
Mm.
And at that point, I'm just shell shocked. I'm shell shocked at that point.
Yeah.
And then so I go to 13, and I hit another little pull, but it hits the left side of the green. The left side of the green kind of then runs off towards a creek.
Yeah.
It hits up like on the fringe where it definitely felt like it would probably stop there, honestly. And
Mm-hmm.
it took a hard kick left. I don't know if it hit something or what, but everyone like reacted verbally to oh, what a weird kick that was. And but I'm like, okay, it's probably going to be fine still. It's probably just down there. I'll have to chip up, try to get up and down. I get down to this ball, and it is, I don't know how to describe this other than there is just a hole down there. There's a hole. There's a 1 foot below the ground hole.
There's a hole in the bucket, dear Liza. Dear Liza.
And there's grass growing in this hole, and so the grass in there is 5 inches deep. I'm not exaggerating. So it's just normal grass down there, and there's this hole with 5 inch grass in it, and there's a mud wall, like up against it, and it's up against. So it's like the world's tiniest pot bunker is down there, and it is up against this mud wall, and so I almost took it unplayable. I'm like, there is no chance of hitting
Is
this
this hole the size of like a record player record, or like a manhole, a little bit bigger? Like,
I would say slightly smaller than a manhole is
okay.
is how I would say it
Sheesh.
was. And so I'm just like, what even is this? I've played this hole before. I've never seen this hole. And so I get down there and it's up against, so it's not in the super long grass, but it's right up against the back edge of this wall against a mud wall. So I'm like, what do I even do? I almost took an unplayable. I decide instead that I'm going to try to take a lob wedge and slam down on the back of the wall and try to shoot it forward into the hill and let it pop up. And so I do this. I'm kind of trying to stay calm, not lose my head about this.
Mm-hmm.
I slam it into the wall, and as you'd expect, it went 2.5 feet. It did get out of the hole.
Okay, that's good.
And Brian, that was the most angry I've ever been on a golf course. I'm embarrassed to admit I spiked my lob wedge a little bit, which is not generally my thing.
You created
Um,
another hole with your lob wedge?
I was a little embarrassed by my reaction.
Yeah.
I stayed calm through the moment and was
Mm-hmm.
like, I'm gonna try to make the best of this. And then
Mm-hmm.
when when I just took a violent swing and the ball went 2.5 feet, I I I lost it for a second, and I
Yeah.
was so angry
Oh
at
man.
the double, and then the what was about to happen. I actually got up and down from there to save bogey,
Wow.
but I just couldn't believe that turn of events, and it broke me. I was a broken man.
Um, okay, so you head to Amish Corner broken. I head to Amish Corner. I was not broken. I was going along fine. It was I was kind of keeping it together with Scotch tape, but the tee shot on 14 was there. I had worked on trying to hit a draw with one of my fairway woods in the in my practice session before, and with some mild success. And I don't know if I teed the ball up too high and like teed it sort of driver height. I didn't tee it driver height, but I must have teed it too high, or I took a wonky swing because while the ball came off my club face, I think I hit a 5 wood. It came off my club face right on the line that I wanted, right at the right side of the fairway, and I was planning on playing a draw. Only the ball, I've never hit a 65-degree wedge, but I assume if I had, this is what the ball flight would be. The ball went directly up in the air, and my first thought was, oh, actually, this is going to land embarrassingly short, but in the fairway, just beyond the red tees. And then, as I realized how much the hurting wind was just keeping the ball from getting far away from me, I thought this may not clear the junk into that fairway. Sure enough, get up there. I didn't even clear this environmentally protected area of tall grass. Had to take a drop, and got stymied by that hole again and made double. Please tell me you did better on this hole.
I did do better than that, but
Okay.
not by much. So following a couple disaster holes, I'd been hitting the draw. I've been hitting all day, sometimes to my demise, as on
Mm-hmm.
11 or 12, I should say. And then was like, all right, just hit that draw again. Dead blocked it into the creek. Just immediately blocked it into the creek. That was, and at that point, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna shoot 85 in this thing. Like,
Yeah.
what is happening? I hit a good approach shot from the drop and two putted for bogey in the end. So I saved a bogey there, but boy, and
Mm.
I'm gonna spoil the end of mine because I don't have much more to
Sure.
report other than
Sure.
that. That got me to 7 over, pretty dejecting. But I did play 15 through 18 at even par and got in at 7 over 77,
Okay.
which at the time, honestly, it felt like very disappointing. But I think I said to you, this was actually worse. That was actually a good score for how I hit the ball. I hit the ball so poorly and was in some outrageous situations where it's like even that hole I found myself in saved bogey. I saved bogey a bunch of times where and somehow made only one double and I'm like, okay, that could have been a lot worse.
Yeah.
The turn it took a few years ago, I think it would have been a lot worse.
Yeah.
so so not happy with 77 ever, but it was it was not a good day. It was not a good
Yeah.
day.
Um, I ended up after 14, I hit a terrible tee shot on 15 that I got a huge break. It should have went OB right. Hit a tree, hit a fence. Was still terrible. It only ended up like being a 125-yard shot. Somehow made bogey from there, but I bogeyed 3 of the last 4 holes, including a par putt on 18. I was in the fairway on 18, and it just kind of was a good microcosm for the whole day. I was in the fairway on 18, had 9 iron in hand, and just found myself protecting. I found myself I knew where I was score wise, and I found myself saying, "Hey, you can bogey and still shoot 79." And then I was examining that thought and be like, "That's not. I don't want to be thinking like that. Like I want to put this on the green and have a birdie look." And they're like, "Yeah, but having a 7 in front of your score on that scoreboard is gonna, you know, people are gonna be you're not gonna be as embarrassed as if that starts with an 8 or whatever. Like these are the thoughts I'm thinking very quickly. They're racing through my head, and so if I tried to push them out and not judge myself for them and let them pass and all that stuff, but I just made a protecty, scared swing, thinned a ball that barely got on the green, and gave myself 80 feet. The birdie putt I left 10 feet short. The par putt literally stopped an inch, maybe less than an inch. It was one of those. It was my second time that day where I had a putt that stayed on the lip, and my playing partners, all reacted, and I waited and waited. It was clear it wasn't going to drop, and so then I just hit it in. But it felt it felt cruel. I wanted a par at the end, but I did it to myself. Signed for a 79, and like you, was really not happy about how it went. You were the thing that you were maybe even more upset about was that nobody went crazy low that day, and it was like,
Yeah.
shoot, if I would have just played the way I've been playing, I would be right in it.
Yeah, I mean, 71 was the low score on day one. And so even if I just kept it a couple shots better, I would be able to think about, can I catch these guys? As it stood, I was six back and with some good players in that group. So I was just like, no, I could shoot 65 and I might not catch them.
Yeah,
So I was very frustrated that not only did I not play, I didn't shoot the 70 I shot earlier in the week, which would have been leading alone. Um, I also, it got just bad enough that it took me out of being able to think about winning it realistically.
yeah. And so that was your maintenance goal for the year, was to get back into that final group.
Mm-hmm.
And so that didn't happen. So that was a bummer.
Yeah.
How did your range session go day two?
I So I kind of just tried to shake off round one as just, it's not like I played well, but there were, like, I left four putts right in the heart, just, a few inches short. And I'm like, that's not even a thing I do generally. Like, I do get the ball to the hole. Um, and I had that hole incident, and I'm like, okay, that swing on 12 is one that's very, it's rare. It's a rare swing, but I was fighting a pole all day. And so I just kind of was like, you know what, you've been golfing a lot. Um, this is just going to magically fix itself tomorrow. It's just a bad day. I got to the range, and it was exactly the same. It was exactly the same. And I was just like, oh, I'm just doing the same thing as yesterday. I haven't done this all year. Like, what's going to happen here? I think I said to you, I said, Brian, this could be bad. This could be bad is what I said.
Yeah, I don't know exactly what, I don't remember now, but I did get a little bit of audio from you on the range.
Hmm.
So I will play that. Actually, I'll just play it live for both of us so we can
Okay.
remember what it was. Here it is. Adam, tell my phone what you just told me. I need this to get this recorded for when you shoot 73.
That's the ceiling now. I'd say this could be really bad. Round two could be really bad. I had a bad day yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't hit the ball well. I'm hitting the ball in the same bad ways on the range today. So that makes me think could be bad. It could be bad.
Okay. You heard it from Adam himself. Quote going into the round, this could be bad. One thing I will say about this round is that we got paired together.
Yeah. How fun was
So
that?
we, as was predicted, we got paired together because I played mediocre and you played poorly. And that's kind of what we didn't want to happen.
Yeah. So, how did you feel going into round two? Did you feel like you were going to bounce back?
I, I mean, I didn't really have aspirations of winning this going into it, though I did feel great about how I was playing going into it. The thing that bothered me the most about the 79 was just that I was not comfortable in that, and we'll talk about this in a little bit, but I'm sort of always playing mind games and thinking through my mental state and my expectations, and that's been well documented on this podcast. And it was like, what I don't want to do on day two is go out and make scared swings. I want to play comfortable. I want to play free. I don't want to be worried about the number in the front of my score. And so that was kind of my goal going out. But I will say I really had a hard time doing that. In fact, um, I the same thing happened to me on day two, right? I think I had a par putt on one. I was above the hole, and it was a very delicate putt, and I somehow left it above the hole, but it was like, again, like 2 inches from going in. Then I did make a par, so that was bogey. I made a par on two. Then on three, I had a much tougher putt, but again, it stopped 2 inches from going in the hole, like above the hole. And so it's like, and for some reason that triggered me. and I was just in my head. I might have even said it out loud. Okay, two 2-inch putts for bogey.
Yeah.
Like that's kind of what it's going to be today. And then on the fourth hole, I hit a great drive, except that it was a little bit too far left because of how they've had to reroute the hole. I ended up on a side hill with a tree 20 yards in front of me that I then hit, and then hit a one maybe my worst shot of the weekend, a really bad 7-iron that I flared right, just stayed in bounds. Long story short, made a double there, and I'm not going to say I was as angry as you were after you went in the hole, but man, was I in a dark place.
You took a walk. We had to wait for some people on the next hole, and you just disappeared, and you were just kind of doing a little march around the fescue,
I did.
just to gather your thoughts, I guess.
I I took a walk. I just was because I was like, this was a gorgeous day. On day one was kind of 90 degrees and humid. Day two, say it again. Day two was 80 degrees and dry, and
Beautiful.
it was a beautiful day. And I'm like, okay, Brian, you're 4 holes into this round. You are 4 over par, and you're about to be pissy for the next 3 hours. Is that what we're gonna do here in a competition that you didn't go in expecting to win? And I did not I did not want to spend the rest of the day in that mindset. I think I maybe joked with you about WDing.
Yeah, you did, and it scared me.
So I said, you know what? I am going to have a forced reset here. I'm going to take a walk. I know I've got 5 minutes, and I am going to change my attitude because I do have the power to do that. Um, and I did. I changed it. The par that I made on the next hole certainly helped,
Hmm.
but um, but I did change it, and it didn't lead to me playing stellar golf the rest of the way. But I snapped out of that mood. Um, but let's go to how your round started. What do you remember
Well,
about those first few
so
holes?
the big thing for me was, hey, things can't go as badly as they did yesterday. Didn't make any birdies. Had 3 penalty shots plus a hole. So essentially 4 penalty shots. I'm like, just even if you play bad, just don't avoid those dumb things, and you're gonna shoot a respectable score. First hole, I've really shaken everything off. I've gained some confidence. I immediately pull my tee shot on one towards the corner of the lake on one, and I've done that a lot of times, and very, very rarely been in that lake. I can hit it past the lake. You can get a little lucky, have it hold up on the hill. We get down there, look for my ball. You find it a foot into the hazard,
Yeah.
the penalty area. Sorry.
Yes.
And I will admit a little bit, you were with me.
Yeah.
I was not in a good place. And I wasn't angry. I wasn't tempted to throw a club. I was
Yeah.
just sort of like, oh, okay, this is what's happening. Your range
Yeah.
session was the same. Um, you said the one thing I wanted was like no penalty shots today, just kind of play golf, and immediately in the lake. And how many times have we played there, and how many times have I hit a ball in that lake? Like four
Yeah.
ever. And I'm just
It's
sort of
Yeah,
like,
it wasn't like a great swing, but I would call it a bad break because you've probably started 20 balls on that line, and even with that same ball flight, and like you said, depending on the wind or whatever, like a lot of them carry that corner, some of them stay short of that corner, a lot of them just hold up in the rough there, and so it wasn't a good swing, but it sort of was a bad break.
and it just felt like that's what this day is going to be. I got you. Which is a bad mental thought, obviously. And
Hmm.
I hit a good approach shot, two putted for bogey. So just like the day before, save the bogey kind of thing.
Hmm.
But then I birdied hole two, so finally a birdie,
Hmm.
and I'm back to even. I par three. Then on four, I left a birdie putt, like again 2 inches short,
Yes, yes.
and So I had a chance to get to 1 under through 4, and I missed it. And from there, it went very poorly, Brian. From there, here's what I'm going to say: we have an
Yeah.
update in the Adams 60s versus 80s race,
Yeah.
and it's not as positive as the 68 was. I bogeyed. Should I just go through this? Should I
Yeah.
just?
Go
Should
through
I
it
just? I
quickly.
I don't want to dwell on this for as long as it's going to take to break it down by hole by hole. You can break down yours as much as you want.
Yeah.
I bogeyed 4 of the next 5 holes,
Mm-hmm.
turned at 39. I'm at that point. I am like, okay, so I'm not checked out of the round, but I'm like, yeah, it's not going well,
Mm-hmm.
and I mean, it can't get worse. It really can't get worse. And I doubled 10.
Mm.
I made bogey on 11, bogey on 12, doubled 13 again.
And I think at that point you said, okay, I need to play the next five in -1 to shoot 79, right?
Yeah, so I needed to play the rest. So that was the last moment I had of hope, where it was just sort of like, okay, I need to do something here.
Mm-hmm.
It's the last stand for having anything respectable here, anything that's not embarrassing. So I did hunker down a little bit.
You did?
Hit a great drive on 14 from those back tees. Took a driver for the first time ever. Almost drove that green, which is very tough from the back tees. Made birdie on 14.
Mm-hmm.
Barely missed it. So to get back to 9 over, so I was back in the 79 range. Just missed a birdie on 15. Left it right in the heart short again.
You did.
Why? Made par on 16, so I'm there. Then on 17, so I need to play these last two. I need par for 79. I hit an 8 iron that I hit a little chunky, and it came up maybe 10, 15 yards short of the green.
Mm-hmm.
And I hit a not a great little bump and run up there. I left myself like 20 feet. It kind of ran away from the hole.
Mm-hmm.
I had a longish putt for my par, and I left it like 3 feet short.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm gonna make a bogey and need a birdie on 18. I get up to the 3 footer. I haven't missed a short putt all day, or all weekend for that matter, and I just dead pulled that one and
Mm.
doubled 17. And so it was different than the day before on 13, where like it really, when it got away from me, that was more upsetting. That's the most angry I've ever been on a golf course. This was just sadness. This was it wasn't anger, it was sadness. I'd actually battled back to at least be like, okay, I'm gonna shoot 79 here. I don't care what I have to do, I'm gonna shoot 79. Then just a ridiculous double on
Mm.
17, par on 18. I shot 81 in round 2 of the club championship, and that
Mm.
is just hard to swallow. I don't want to be talking about it right now. If I'm being perfectly honest with you, I am. I'm a little fried on golf right now.
Yeah.
I'm not in a great golf mental space. I'm going to AutoZone later, and I've been so excited to hit balls. I'm like, do I even hit balls right now? I probably
Mm.
will,
Yeah.
but it's hard to. I don't feel in a good place.
Hmm. All right, we'll put a pin in that. We'll come back to it. Uh, nothing really.
Excuse me. Sorry.
You're good. Nothing really great happened in my round. Honestly, I turned in 43. Then I made just a disgusting double on 10, bogey on 11, couple of pars, and then got to Amish Corner and pumped one into the creek. So it's like, okay, I thought maybe I could at least have one good shot on this hole from the Blues this weekend. That did not happen. Then pumped one out of bounds on 15. I did scrape a bogey on 14. Hit one that I was right on the border for me and out of bounds or not on 15. Hit a provisional great and ended up having to use that. Made par +2 on that hole because of the OB ball. And then on 16, I hit a pretty good tee shot, but I got a little bit unlucky that I had a small tree kind of in my way, and Adam rushed the heck out of me. As I'm kidding. No, I'm kidding. You didn't.
Mm.
I really didn't have any play, but to try to hope the little shot I had in mind got under the branch, and it didn't. So I hit the tree, bounced straight back down. So that made a bogey. I will say the only bright spot other than the two birdies in round one is that I did finish par par. Maybe my best swing of the weekend on 17. I hit a really nice 7-iron that just felt like, oh yeah, that's how you hit an iron. Now I remember it. It looked really good from the tee box. Ended up getting about 10, 12 feet past the hole. I just missed a birdie putt. That would have been nice. But and then on 18, I pulled my approach into the sand after a bad drive, but got up and down for a par. So I finished par par. Again, that was about the only bright spot. Shot 85 on the day, came home at 42. So I went 79, 85. I think I finished in 14th place in the club championship. The takeaway that I'm going to have from it is that I just wasn't comfortable. And in my continued search for the the appropriate level of care is how I've often termed it, and I'm maybe willing to ditch that. As we've talked about a little bit, when I go out with Hudson and I'm way more concerned about how he's playing and just kind of smacking my ball around, that seems to be fertile soil for me to have a good round. But, a lot of golfers, I'm not going to say everyone, but a lot of golfers, most golfers do tend to play worse or have a harder time scoring in the competitions that matter most to them in those type of rounds. And so my search to be able to do that, and your search as well, it's kind of a universal thing, even though I think we may think about it slightly differently as your neighbor cuts his grass.
Yes. Sorry about
Thank you.
that.
Thank you for that. It's all good. No, how are you feeling? How are you processing what happened? Is there, because I have a perception of how you process it and what your answer to it is and how you're going to deal with it going forward that I will pitch to you, and you can say no, that's ridiculous. But I want to hear it from you first. How are you processing it?
I think it was especially hard for two reasons. Because, first of all, I thought I had broken through on the competitive golf thing. I've played enough competitive golf this year that and not felt nervous and played like I play golf. I haven't played unbelievable, but I've played like myself in a U.S. Open qualifier, and I was like, okay, that's way bigger than a club championship. But there's something slightly different about two things that were different about it. One, it's something where you care because for different reasons, not because it's huge, not because it's a U.S. Open qualifier, but because you know everybody there. So it's a more social pressure,
Mm-hmm.
and I also had an expectation of potentially winning and needing to
Mm-hmm.
play great. Where in
Mm-hmm.
everything else I played, I'm like, just play well, just play respectably, and I was like, respectably isn't going to work in this, and I think that got to me a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And I also feel a bit down about it because I have a couple things. We have the member coming up. It's not very soon, but it's this year. Member, and then also the Tournament of Champions that I'll be in. And I'm like, but this was kind of my last competitive golf thing for the year, and so to finish on that note, it's a big letdown, both in terms of how I played, and now it's like, okay, when's the next time I'm playing something really competitive? Is it next April? Like,
Yeah.
what does that look like? So I'm not. Yeah, I mean, I don't know how to say it other than I'm not doing great with it. I'm more annoyed than I'd like to be. I can't. I'm having a hard time. Like I'm like, okay, when do we golf this week? I'm like, do I want to golf this week?
Yeah.
So it's not. I'm not feeling super resilient about it, if I'm being honest with you.
We talked about that a little bit at the beginning of the season. We talked about because we're starting so early, because we're really diving into this even more so than we usually do, will the burnout come earlier?
Hmm.
And I honestly felt, I'll say this, coming off of my 10-day layoff and my vacation, I was kind of like, oh man, that break away from golf actually kind of felt good. Like,
Hmm.
I don't even know if I'm ready to jump back in and be like consumed by this game again. And then I went out and shot 70, and so that then I immediately was
Right.
pulled back in. So I mean, and you know this too because you've been here before, and inevitably you get the bug hardcore again.
It is always about this time of year for me where I have a hard time when
Yeah.
things end, and it's like, okay, so my solution to this is like I know Fox Chase Golf Club has an open club championship,
Hmm.
and so I feel motivated right now to maybe go put something competitive on my calendar. I need to find something
Yeah.
because I just don't want this to be the last thing I do. I I don't know have I said this on the podcast? I officially applied for my amateur status back,
Yeah.
and I will get it back in December.
Yes.
Um, and so next year I will be a full amateur and can play in tons of stuff. And I'm so excited for that. I mean, my goal next year is to, I'm not even joking, I might play like 20 tournaments next year.
So he's burned out on golf.
Oh, I've never burned out on a golf for my life.
Yeah.
But I'm like, I've worked hard. I've worked so hard to targeting this club championship, and it went so poorly. It's like, what do I do for the next month? Like anything,
Yeah.
And I will get over it. And we're gonna go film at Honeybrook tomorrow, right? And
Yeah.
normally when we film at Honeybrook, I'm just so excited. Like maybe I'll hit a few balls, maybe I'll putt, maybe I can get some work in. And I'm like, I don't have any desire to do that right now.
Yeah.
Because it's not building to anything. I know I should enjoy golf more just for being in nature and the sake of golfing,
Yeah.
and being with friends. And I love being with friends and golfing. I like it, but I have a hard time when I'm not building to something. If there's not a slight underlying, this is all work towards when this matters.
Yeah.
I have a hard time with it,
Yeah.
honestly.
Well, I do think you'll get something on the calendar here soon. I know you got a hard out in 7 minutes, but I do want to hit this one last idea before we're done here today. We've talked about how I really wrestle with the mental game, and I kind of really examine my thoughts and my thought processes and try to tweak things and change things. I feel like much more than you do. You're kind of like, I love the high highs. I want to feel the low lows. I feel like is it a safe statement to say that you probably don't work on your mental game as much as I do?
I think that's safe to say. I mean, that's only not in the sense that like I care about my mental game very much, and I think it comes for me like evolution comes through experience, and it's just like I'm not trying to manually tweak.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it, and that's kind of getting at what I when I was thinking about your approach to this. To me, it feels like, and I'm sure you're going to say this isn't 100% true because it's probably not, but it feels like your response to, well, you know what? Let's say every golfer, you can rank them on a scale of 0 to 100 of their skill level. And let's say all the tour pros are like 95 or above or 98 or above, whatever. Let's just call you an 80 or an 85 for the sake of this experiment. And let's say that most golfers are going to suffer like a 3 point drop when they get in, like when they play the competition that means the most to them in a given year. Okay. That they're going to turn from an 80 into a 78 or something. And just go with me here. I
Yeah.
feel like your response to that is, well, you know what? I'm going to work on it's not I'm going to work on my mental game. So instead of a 3 point drop, I'm only going to have a 2 point drop. I feel like your response to it is like, well, if I'm going to lose 3 points in a competition, then I'm going to turn myself from an 80 to a 85 or from an 85 to an 88. I'm just going to get better so that if that being in competition makes my game suffer a little bit, that's how I'm going to handle it.
No,
What's
that's
what? What's
That's
true about that?
100% true. That
Oh,
is
it
that
is.
is 100% true. Is that Matt Perino, who won the club championship, he shot 71-71. I've played with Matt Perino. He suffered a 3-point drop, and his 3-point drop is 71-71. That's the goal. So
Okay.
he didn't, he's a guy who can threaten a course record anytime he's out there. He shoots 65-66 frequently, so his bad is 71-71, and that's the only solution to me. I don't think you can mental willpower yourself to, to just play your best in those situations. You need your bad to be good.
Well, what if I expand that analogy to say that um, the amount that you drop in a big competition can be anywhere from 1 point to 10 points on the scale. Like maybe there's somebody out there who completely wilts when it comes to competition, and then there's some people who do a really great job. I mean, I think we see this in the majors. Like Louis Oosthuizen routinely top tens in majors, and yet he barely wins anything else. And I think a big part of that is that he's found a way that in these bigger tournaments that some people wilt under, he doesn't. And so, what if I told you that maybe you're losing 3 or 4 points off of your scale right now? Maybe there's things that you could do to cut that down from a 4 to a 3, or from a 4 to a 2, or from a 4 to a 1.
No, I mean, I care about that. I'm not dismissing that aspect of it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just saying it's not the dominant factor. It's like that's a secondary factor to, and maybe this is obvious and dumb to say. Like, obviously getting better is the biggest factor. you
Right.
know, we all know that, I guess, so maybe it's irrelevant to say. But for me it is something where it's just like I view improving that as a sheer experience thing. Where it's like, yes, I played a lot more tournaments this year, so I felt a lot more comfortable. That didn't really come through in the club championship, but it did come through in other things I did. I played well in the Phoenixville Open, and that was something where it was like that. I said, like, I thought the club championship would be better because I played in the U.S. Open qualifier, and that totally applied to the Phoenixville Open. I was like, oh yeah, this feels like a relaxed round of golf.
Mm-hmm.
And then it didn't in the club championship for whatever reason, whatever the different dynamics were. But to me, I'm not gonna. I don't think it's anything to tweak it. That's why I want to play 20 tournaments next year, because I'm like, yeah, I hope that the club championship next year is my 18th tournament of the year,
Yeah.
and it's just another weekend.
Do you not think that mental game is one component, a similar component of your overall game, like short game and putting and off the tee?
No, I do, but again, I don't. You talk about it like, what could we tweak here?
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't view it as something tweakable. I think, if you're going to find yourself in these situations, and it's a little bit out of your control how your body responds to pressure and things like that. And so I'm saying, yes, 100%. It's just as important as your swing in a certain way. But to me, the way to improve that is the tweak is do it more.
Hmm.
That's
So mental golf books, every single one of them are trash. To think that you can.
I've never read one and enjoyed it, if that's what you mean. Like, I'm just sort of like, no, I'm gonna play to the best of my ability, and I'm gonna care
Huh.
a lot, and the only thing that determines, so obviously on any given day you can shoot a range of scores, and I understand that if I shoot on the 77, for instance, was not a result of a choke. I didn't feel like, I just felt like that's in my range. That was
Hmm.
my tied for my worst round at Honeybrook before the second round. um, to me, it's just something where I want to play like I play golf.
Yeah.
I don't want it to be like regular golf Adam and then tournament Adam. And for most of this year, I've managed to do that. And this was the uh, little regression back to, this was tournament golf Adam.
Yeah.
And it sucked. I hated it. But again, I think the way to overcome that is to normalize it. And that's what I'm going to do next year. That
Okay.
I'm going to play an outrageous amount of competitive golf.
All right. This is a good topic. We do have to go, but I want to hit this up in future episodes. Um, maybe I'm not even going to try to convince you. Maybe I'm going to force you to
Mm,
read a book or two,
okay.
to at least address it. I'm curious to see what the listeners think of this part of the conversation. Also curious to see if any listeners out there know of someone who has had a hole in one and has witnessed a no hitter on their birthday. Um, Adam, Club Championship did not go the way that we wanted it to this
No.
year. Um, and I know both of us are in a little bit of a lull right now, but we'll be back. And not only in the golf course, but also we will be back next week with another episode. So catch you then.
All right, Brian. It's been a pleasure as always.
It has been a joy and an honor.